And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and I am pleased to have on the line with us one of my old friends and colleagues, Mike Malloy, the host of the Mike Malloy Show on the Progressive Voices Network, weeknights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, author of the forthcoming book, The Alt-Right, Trump and Me, Dispatches from the Foothills of the North Georgia Mountains. His website is MikeMalloy.com, and his Twitter handle is @Mike Malloy Show. Mike, welcome. It's been a while since we've talked on the air.
Boy, that was the longest sentence I think I've ever heard you say. Hi, Tom.
I got to get it right here, you know.
Thanks for having me on. How you doing?
I'm well. So just to begin, I'm curious your thoughts and take on last night's pseudo State of the Union address to the joint session of Congress.
Yeah, whatever that was. My take on it is it was very robotic. It had nothing to do with Trump. That was not Trump speaking. I think Trump has made himself very clear as to who he is and what he is and how he relates to the world over the past 16, 18 months. And interestingly, I was watching some of the pundits on MSNBC and CNN today talking about this was Donald Trump reset, or Donald Trump trying to reach out, to people other than his base. And I had to sit there and laugh while I was eating my oatmeal, because it's nothing of the sort. This is just another Steve Bannon move to try to calm down the proles a little bit, because we were getting kind of excited, not in a positive way, but those states of excitation where revolution might be on our minds. So I think that was just baloney last night, frankly.
I see it as Reagan. I remember Reagan really, really well. And I remember all the times that he would say, oh, we're going to clean up the air. And he would cut air regulations. Oh, we're going to clean up the water. He cut water regulations. We're going to cut taxes on working people. He raised taxes 18 times. He cut taxes on billionaires. And he said it so sincerely, and he said it so frequently, and the press repeated it so obediently that Americans to this day believe the lies that came out of Ronald Reagan's mouth on a daily basis.
Well, after spending time with Ron Jr., as you have, as I have, my attitude about President Reagan has slid a little bit in the direction that I wonder how much of what Reagan did he was fully aware of.
I agree. He was a useful idiot in many ways. So.
Yeah. Granted, all those things you just said happened. I remember his speeches too. But the difference, I think, the fundamental difference between Reagan and Trump, if there's only one fundamental difference, is the fact that I don't think Reagan had a malevolent streak somewhere buried inside of him, and I do believe that Trump does.
Yeah, Reagan was not a hateful ideologue. He was an actor playing the role of President of the United States and dancing to the tune of hateful ideologues in his staff and in Congress, whereas Trump himself is a hateful ideologue, or at least hateful. I'm not even sure that he's really figured out an ideology yet, which is one of the big problems the Republican Party has.
Well, yeah, and I think that is glaringly apparent. Trump has no program. He has no I don't think he wanted to be president. He wanted to bask in the glory of winning the election would bring him. But he's not someone who I don't believe he has leadership qualities. I think he's a grifter, a manipulator, a con artist. He got a start. Hell, if you or I had started with $50 million, I think we could be real estate moguls in New York and around the world ourselves now.
Yep.
So I cannot take this man as anything other than a willfully ignorant person whose ego has to be fed every day, or something bad will happen.
Yeah, he's a total hustler. We're talking with Mike Malloy, MikeMalloy.com. You can tweet him @Mike Malloy Show. Mike, tell us about your project, this book, The Alt-Right, Trump and Me.
Yeah, that's kind of the working title, Tom. I'm not sure how it's going to wind up, but I had to have something. Well, what have you written? 50, 60 books. You've got to have a focal point. So that's to keep you on track. So that's what I'm using, is that particular title. But it's going to be about Trump and the so-called alt-right, the fascist right in this country, but also the experiences I've had over the past 50 years directly with this so-called alt-right, and how it can happen here, regardless of what Sinclair Lewis said in his book. It can happen here, and I think it is happening here. So what I'm attempting to write about is all that has happened in this country since the 60s, focused through me and how it led. I don't mean everything. I mean, this is not going to be an 800-page tome. It's going to be a very quick book, but filtered through my experience and how I've seen this and how I've watched the slow incremental rise of fascism until the point where I honestly, truthfully do believe that we're about 2 inches away from it right now.
Yeah, and you've been commenting on this forever. I've told you before, I used to live in Atlanta. Louise and I started a travel agency there in '83 and an ad agency there in '87. And I used to drive around Atlanta in the evening. In fact, I'd look for excuses to drive around Atlanta in the evening when you were on WSB just to listen to the Mike Malloy Show. And that was in the 80s. I mean, you've been, long before I was on the air, you've been on the air forever talking about this stuff, speaking truth to power, occasionally getting kicked in the teeth by power for it. And,
yes.
And I'm telling you, you're one of my heroes, Mike Malloy. You really are. You do great work.
Now, you know how I feel.
So I'm assuming people can learn more about your book project by going to MikeMalloy.com?
They can learn more about the Kickstarter program that we've got started to help get this thing off the ground. But and they can also learn how they can receive chapters of the book as they're written.
Cool.
But in terms of what the totality of the book is, I don't know right now. You know what I'm talking about. When you start, you don't know exactly where you're going to wind up.
Yeah, and that's part of frankly, the delight of writing a book. But right. Mike, I wish you the very best on the thing. If you want, or if it's of any help, drop me a private note and I'll connect you with my agent.
I'll do it.
I would be pleased to do that. And I wish you really well with this new book, The Alt-Right, Trump and Me. MikeMalloy.com, Twitter, Mike Malloy Show. Mike, thanks so much for dropping by today.
Thanks for having me on. My best to Louise. You take care.
I'll pass it along. Say hi to Kathy for me. Thank you.